Well, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the second deep dive into the brand new member of the Circuit family from Novation, the Circuit Rhythm. Here it is. And so Circuit Rhythm, just to kind of recap a little bit on what the product is all about, is basically it's an 8-part sampler. It's sample records. It's also tied into the circuit sequencer workflow. So it kind of builds on the ecosystem of the circuit tracks, which is obviously the kind of the synth-based version with external MIDI on it. This one is very much focused on sample recording and working with samples that you put into there. It's got quite a lot of interesting things and tricks up its sleeve. And in this second session, we're going to delve into some of the things that we can do with Circuit Rhythm. Also, we've got the I've got the chat open as well. And basically, if you've got questions about Circuit Rhythm, I'm here to try and answer those as well as we go through the session. So yeah, let's just dive in. Now, I'm going to, as I say, have a quick recap in terms of what Circuit Rhythm is about. So of course, we went through quite a lot of the features last week, but let's just have a quick look at kind of the sorts of things that we can do initially, and then we're going to go into some of the more kind of interesting and kind of I don't think advanced is quite the right word, but basically some of the more kind of unusual things that we can do with Circuit Rhythm. So yeah, so basically if I hit play on this, which is an empty kind of project, nothing's running at the minute, I have a sequencer running up at the top here, and down here I effectively have kind of a keyboard which are attached to trigger different samples that I've got held in the Circuit Rhythm. Now we've got 128 of these different samples, and I can page down all the way down, and I've got 8 pages, and you can see them represented on the number pad here as to which page we go to, and we've got 128 of those. Now that's going to give us basically 220 seconds worth of sample time. Now 220 seconds is 3 minutes 40, and that's quite a lot of sample time really for things like kind of single drum hits and that sort of thing. We've got enough space in here to put loops into there as well, so we'll we can use loops. And in fact, if I go down to my page 5 here, I know I've got a whole load of different loops, different kind of breaks and stuff loaded in there. And so what I can do is I can choose a loop that I want and place a step on there. Now at the moment I'm running a tempo of 90 beats per minute, and my sample here is 120 beats per minute. So what can I do? Well, I can use the controls on the top here to basically kind of make this work for me. So I can use the tune control if I wanted, but actually I'm going to use a different method to get this in time. If I go to my note page, you'll see now we've got a chromatic player for the samplers. So we can kind of speed the sample up by playing it up in pitch. And as we're in 90 beats per we're at 90 beats per minute, I'm going to actually just transpose this down to the note G, and as it was 120 beats per minute, if I go down a perfect fourth there, I'm going to be in time, hopefully. Well, let's find out. There we go, so my loop's playing nicely there. So basically we've got a bit of a loop there. Let's go and add some extra stuff. Now if you remember, on this page I pressed the step that I wanted it to appear on, and then I pressed the step, or the sample I should say, that I wanted to play. And of course I could do the same here. I could just add some extra samples there. So, I can start to add extra samples, different samples on the same sequencer track. We're just using the single track. Let's go to add some extra parts now here. So I'll just put a kick and a snare in. Let's get a... There we go, that's a nice snare. There, nice kick. So very quickly add some stuff in there. I go to another track here. Let's get a sample. Oh, I just recorded that unnecessarily. I've got the record on, but basically I've just got the sample that I want here, this one. Now I can go to my note page here and then use the chromatic keyboard to play some stuff in. So very quickly getting a little beat together going, fairly swiftly. So, you know, that's kind of a very quick, swift kind of way that we can look at using it. So, you know, we explored how we can use the different samples in the sequencer. So we don't have to just have a single sample per track. We can have any of the 128 available. You know, we can use the note mode here to kind of pitch stuff down, and that's really useful for getting stuff into rhythm, into the right tempo. That's what I'm trying to say. And then, of course, you know, if we go and get a pitch sample here, then of course we can use the note mode to essentially build that up. Now, just going to take a quick look at the questions, and someone's asking, can the rhythm record out into a DAW or into another groove box track by track? Yeah, absolutely, by all means. So we don't have MIDI over USB or anything quite like that, but what we do have is our outputs, of course, and we've got a section here where I can just mute all the other parts. So here is my mixer page, which is giving me access to the volume controls, and I've just muted all the other tracks there that I'd created, and I can just kind of say, okay, let's record this drum part, and then we'll record this second part that's playing. Maybe we'll record the third part in. So basically, yeah, you would track this in much the same way as you would track sort of guitars and bass and that sort of thing into your DAW software. We've also got panning controls as well. So I could actually say, okay, let's take track 1, and on the mixer page, let's send that all the way out to the left-hand side. Now, hopefully, if my software is set up, you should be able to kind of hear that it's just coming out the left. Okay. And then if I take the second part here and send that out the right hand side, now I've got individual outputs basically on the circuit rhythm, so I could record 2 tracks at one time individually directly into the software. Okay, so let's move on. I'm just going to clear this out. Now, this is an interesting little thing. If you want to center, for example, the pan controls, so I'm not going out to the left-hand side or the right-hand side, if I press the clear button and just twist clockwise, hopefully you'll see there the little button, the little LED underneath goes blue to say that that's now kind of removed any kind of changes to that setting, and we've gone back to our default setting. And that also works on the macro controls at the top here. Now let's have a look at some of these macro controls. I'll go to this pitched track here. Now here I have a tune pot. So, you know, you can basically have a very kind of fine control over the pitch. Let's just center that back to where it was. Clear, turn to the right. There we go. Now, if I press and hold the shift button, this is now actually moving in chromatic semitones. So it's a bit more kind of, it helps you kind of keep things kind of in kind of, you know, against a kind of a keyboard chromatic center. Now, after that, we've got a start control, which lets me find the start point for the sample. And I also have a length control. So again, I can control and manage the length of the sample here. Now, interestingly, again, if I use the shift control, I have a very fine control over the start point here, and the same with the length as well. I've got a very fine control over the length of the sample. And this can be really interesting when we start to kind of loop samples round and start to kind of use them as kind of almost like oscillators from a synthesizer. So if I go to my sample mode here, I've just pressed sample twice and I turn loop on. Now if I just press the note, it's just going to keep looping. So now I can use the length control here. And of course, as the length of the sample window gets shorter, the repeats get quicker. And we're getting to a point where it becomes almost so fast that it's a pitch in itself. And now if I use the shift control, I can now scan through that kind of oscillator, and now I've created my own sound using well, I mean, it was a pitched bass sound to start with anyway, but we've we've got a totally different sound from that now. So the start and the length controls are really useful parts of the sample controls as well. We also have a slope. Now the slope, actually, let's just go back to the note page. The slope control is like a little envelope, and we can kind of make it a nice short, snappy, kind of very quick decay sort of sound, and then add, if I turn clockwise, kind of an attack and release to the sound as well. So it's quite a clever kind of single knob kind of envelope control. Then I've got distortion. So we've got a lot of distortion to play with there as well. High pass filter to basically get out all the lows, and a low pass filter to get out all the highs. The low pass filter is also resonant. So with a combination of all of these controls, we can get some really quite interesting places, as we'll find out. So that's kind of a very super quick overview, kind of covering a few of the points from last week there, really. Other things that we've got, I mentioned about the sample page here, the sample mode page, and we've got different behaviors for the samples to play. So let's go and let's just get, in fact, I'm going to put the tempo up to 120 for this, yeah. And let's just get again one of those kind of drum breaks. Okay. Now, if you notice, if I press that and trigger it, it's just going to play all the way through. That's because it's a one-shot sample. If I switch that to gated, and now, it's only going to play for as long as I hold that pad down. And that, again, can be quite interesting. I'm going to put my click track on here. Just hit record. So I can use the gate there to just kind of get a kind of a nice gated sound. And now, of course, because I've got my start point, I can almost kind of scan through the sample and automate this. So if I press and hold record, now I'm kind of just doing this quite randomly. Sounds a bit wacky, but if I go again now and get some drum sounds. And at any point I can say, okay, actually I want to edit the sample, so let's just go to the velocity page. And this is now changing the start point. So I can hit record here and actually find the start point that I want. Oops, get that volume up. And I can use the fine-tune control as well here as well. So that's kind of taking the notion of a long sample there and kind of putting it into kind of little slices. However, we've got actually a better way of doing this. So you can have a play around with it that way, or we can go into slice mode. So I'll just clear all of this out. Check the sample. There we go, and we'll put that on one shot for now. And I'm going to turn slice on. And when I've got slice on, if you remember before, we had the chromatic keyboard here at the bottom. What we've got now are essentially 16 slices, basically divided sections of the sample that are available. And again, I can use that. So if I hit play, we've got the kick drum running. And again, if I use the slope control, add a bit of filter into that. So we've taken this sample, this one original sample. I've got the slope on there, let's just bring that back. That's the original sample, and in the note mode, because we've gone to slice, we've now got that in 16 parts. Now, equally, I could say, okay, actually, let's just make that instead 8 parts long. And you'll see now that we've divided into 8 equal parts. And I can also go in and say, actually, no, make it 4. So we can get some quite interesting kind of results from just playing around with those. Then I can also go to keyboard mode as well. And that's going to basically bring that back, the pitch control. So we can do some quite interesting things here with the splice mode. Now there's another thing that we can also do in splice mode here as well. So let's go back to the original sample and just clear those steps out. If I, in slice mode, so we're connected to slice, and if I press note, the note button twice, it opens up some slice record points. And this allows me to manually put in my own slice points. And this can be quite a creative way to basically get your loops into the sort of the areas that you want. So I can kind of go. So. Actually, yeah, let's just do that again because I hit the bottom pad by accident. Let's try again. So. Okay. And if I want to change that start point, like from maybe here, I can just change the start point for that slice. Maybe again on this one. I'll just get it to... Just find the point. So, you know, you can really get to grips with the samples that we're using. And the slice mode is kind of non-destructive. So at any point I can just say, actually, let's just take it back to the 16 points that we have. And yeah, also another nice thing, I really enjoy this. If I just put the steps in order, like so. So let's just double check. Yeah. Oop. Yeah. Yeah. Yep, they're all in order now. If I hit play. Okay, so actually what I've done is I've taken a 2-bar phrase and put it into a single bar. So let me just try that again. So basically I'll just go one here, and instead I'll skip a step and put the second one here, third one here, fourth one here, fifth one here. So we should now be in. And the great thing about this is now that because we're using slices, I can go to my tempo and kind of use it a bit like a time stretching kind of feature. We could go right up to, I don't know, let's go 160 beats per minute. And now, of course, my tuning is kind of separated from the timing. You can do some quite interesting things using the slice mode, and of course this works really, really well with you know, with pitched instruments as well. So for example, if let's just clear everything out, start again and go back to page 6 now. So here I've got quite a long sample of some strings. If I turn on slice mode and I put that into 4 parts, what we should find is the 4 chords that make up the whole of that sample are now kind of individually laid out for me to just play. So again, we can kind of really get to grips with our samples. Let's see what else we've got. Something with a bit of... Okay, let's try this one. So I'm going to split this into 16 steps. So I can kind of get quite interesting kind of ways of working with kind of longer melodical and kind of musical phrases as well. Okay, now let's step into some of the things that we should really take a good look at in this evening's session. We've kind of covered a few of the bits that that we've already sort of looked at, but I want to now take a look at a page I don't think we explored last week, and that's the note repeat page here. Oh, the drum pad page, I should call it. So I think, is it this one? I can't remember. I've saved one up for... Yeah, this is the one. Now, the reason I've gone to this kind of project is that I've kind of saved the drum sounds that I want onto the relevant track. So on track 1, I've got this kick. On track 2, I've got that snare. Track 3, that snare, hat. Some kind of other percussion sounds as well. Now, in this page, I can basically trigger all 8 tracks at any time. And if I put the click track on, which I have done, I can hit record, and then I can start to build up a bit of a sequence just on all of the tracks, just from this this page. So I'll just kind of... So very quickly kind of just got this little beat together using the different samples. Now what I really want to do is start to explore what we can do with these switches as well. Now these switches are basically note repeat switches. So let's see. So here we've got a hi-hat, so maybe we want to just add a bit of kind of ratcheting to the hi-hat sound. So that's kind of nice. We can kind of just do that as our kind of little way of embellishing the rhythm that we've recorded. Also, I'm going to just very quickly save this project. So in the projects page, in fact, I don't need to be in the projects page. I can just hit save twice. That's now captured it here. Now, the reason I've done that is that I'm going to hit the record button. And by hitting the record button, of course, we're going to record all of those notes, no repeat things directly into the sequencer. And if we look at the sequencer now, so that's quite a nice way of kind of making some get some really quite interesting beats going just by using the kind of the drum pads here, but also this note repeat function that we've got up at the top. Now, if you prefer to work the other way around, left-handed, right-handed, you can use the arrows here to just flip that over, and so you can just quickly access the different kind of layouts there just by using the little arrow key up at the top. I kind of prefer it this way for myself. And another thing that we can do is, of course, let's have a look at patterns now, because at the minute we're just listening to one pattern. Actually, let's just reload that that project, and I can do that even when it's running. So let's say it's running here, then I can just very immediately, by holding shift or cue it up by tapping and waiting for the next bar to come round. But let's just immediately jump back to where we were. Okay. Now, the patterns page, this is what I want to have a little think about now. So we've got 8 patterns per part. Each pattern is either 16 steps, or if I choose it to be, I can make it 32 steps in length. And so if we, have a 32 step pattern, basically, even though we've got 8 patterns per part, that's kind of the equivalent of 16 bars worth of, standard 4 on the floor kind of music, 4/4 music. Now, let's just go back to part 1 and just take it into just being a 16-step sequence. I'm going to very quickly just duplicate these parts across. So I've duplicated part 1, duplicate part 2. And I'm just duplicating the top one all the way down. Okay, that's great. Let's take view lock off, I think. And let's just... There we go. Now, if I then join these patterns together, we've now got a chain of 4 patterns. They're all going to start on pattern 1, and they're basically duplicated, so they're going to be repeating pretty much exactly what we've got. And when we get to the 4th one, we're going to spin up to the top again. So once again, if I get my drum pads page here, hit record, I can start to make really longer, kind of interesting and quite complex rhythmical patterns across, you know, a longer pattern chain kind of area. So you'll see now we probably have 2 bars of normality, and then okay. Now I'm just going to quickly take a look at the chat up here. Now I'm going to have to kind of just sort of really kind of spin through this quite quickly, but I did see that somebody was asking about how fine and fast the note repeats are. Well, basically we've got a kind of a straightforward quarter note, 8th note, 16th, 32nd note, and then we've got triplet quarters, triplet 8ths, triplet 16ths, and triplet 32nds. So those are the resolutions of the of the note repeats that we've got. Somebody's asking, is the filter digital or analog? The filters, everything inside the Circuit Rhythm is it's digital. You know, it's all being generated within DSP code. That's including the filters as well. So yeah, it's a digital device. Well, it's difficult to say on a Wednesday evening. And also I spotted a question about the analog clock as well. Someone's asking, can you talk about the analog clock out? Can you use it to sync a Volca or Pocket operator and record it in sync? Well, yeah, the answer to that is yes. Now, it's an analog clock output. And of course, you know, I've got a little mini jack here as well, kind of, and I'm just, if I find it, I think it's that, there we go. Now I can plug this into my seed control on the beads here, and I think if I just have a listen to this, hopefully we're going to be in time with that. Let's just bring it in. Put it down on the mixer. So basically I've got the analog clock running, and this is clocking. You can't really see it from the camera, but this is actually clocking the beads that I've got running here. Let's just kind of get that running. Now I can also change the analog clock side in my settings page. And I'm not getting much going in there, I don't think. So that's fine. Basically, yeah, if I go to my settings page or setup page, shift and save, I now have different clock speeds for my analog clock. And I think that's quarter notes, 8ths, and then we go into kind of pulse per quarter notes, finishing with 24 pulse per quarter note at the end. So we've got quite a wide a range of analog clock outputs there. Just a quick word about the setup page. At the top here, we've got our MIDI channels for each of the 8 tracks. So we can choose which track which MIDI channel that particular track is going to both listen to and send MIDI data out of as well. And you know, we can use that to sequence other devices. So you know, if you've got a few mono synths hanging around, that sort of thing, then of course you can use the Circuit Rhythm with its monophonic sequencing output to be able to control that sort of thing. If you're looking for polyphonic control over external synthesizers, over polysynths and that sort of thing, then really that's where the Circuit Tracks comes in. So Circuit Rhythm is kind of a perfect complement to work with Circuit Tracks. Circuit Tracks has its 4 multi-voice, I can't remember, I think 6 or 8 voice polyphonic sequences in there. It also has a bit of sample playback in there, but it doesn't have the kind of capabilities that we have with Circuit Rhythm as an actual sampler. So if you're looking for polyphonic kind of control, then really Circuit Rhythm pairs incredibly well with Circuit Tracks. They're kind of designed to work really nicely together, and you know, kind of not one is to kind of do everything. Basically, they're designed to work as a nice pair and be really basically a really powerful workstation. So, yeah, let's crack on. In fact, I'm going to have a little think about polyphony now as well. So I'm going to sample. Let's go and sample something. It's about time I did. So I've gone to my sample record page here. In the sample record page, I have access to all of the 28 slots for my samples that are held in a pack. Actually, a quick note about packs. Again, we discussed this last week, but the Circuit Rhythm has an SD card slot on the back, and that takes a micro SD card, such as, I don't know if you can see that, but there we go. There's a little micro SD card. And basically, on that SD card, we can hold 32 packs. If I press Shift and Projects, this opens up my packs pages, and I have 32 slots to store a pack. And one pack is basically one working instance of Circuit Rhythm. So if I go back to my, let's see, projects page here, I have 64 projects that I can use, and that's within one pack, and I have 128 samples. If I want to load in a whole bank of a new set of samples and some new projects, some new songs, new tracks that I've been working on, I can quite simply just go to packs, click on a pack that I want to open, hit the play button, that's going to load into the system, and then away you go using your new samples. So, you know, I mentioned at the beginning, we're talking about 220 seconds worth of sample, or 3 minutes 40 seconds of sample time, but that's just in a single pack, and there are 32 of them as well, so it just clocks in at just under 2 hours worth of samples that can be stored directly on the hardware itself. And of course, you know, it's battery powered, it's portable, it can take anywhere. So, you know, with this Circuit Rhythm and an SD card in there, you've got a lot of content in there. But we will later on explore something that's quite an interesting way of getting even bigger samples, and kind of some quite interesting approaches to that. I've just seen Cost Billingham is asking a question about the sample, so that's nicely timed that I looked up there. Can you save samples to the SD card without using without using components? So, yeah, the answer to that is yes, you can. You can, of course, take your SD card out, stick it into an SD card reader and plug it into your computer, and then you will have access to the folder structure that is containing all the samples. I would not recommend that, though, because, you know, there is a naming convention for the way that the samples are named, and you've got to make sure all the samples are named correctly and in the order that you want them to be. And I'm going to be quite honest, it gets a bit confusing. So that's really why the component software, which conveniently I've got up on my window here, the component software is designed to really kind of take all of that kind of headache and kind of workflow kind of struggle, if you like, out of the equation. So you can, if you want to, put your samples directly onto the SD card, but it's not the way I would do it for sure. Okay, so right, I was going to talk about polyphony as well, because of course, as I mentioned, each of the sample tracks here are mono sample tracks. So you might think, well, hang on, what if I want to make chords? What if I want to make polyphonic bits of music in my, you know, what if I want to kind of get a bit more adventurous than just single notes? Well, of course we can do that. It's a sampler. This is the whole point of a sampler. You are in charge of what goes in there. So we can very easily make up polychords without any fuss at all. So I've gone to my sample record page. Now I've got my Summit over in the corner here, and I'm just going to record in. Let me just check my connections. Yes, I've got my Summit being sent over into the audio inputs here. So I'm just going to highlight a sample slot. Now in the sample record page, the white slots are occupied. They're occupied with samples. They're all occupied, but the red ones are nice and empty. So if I just select this slot here, and I hit the record button, now you see it's not recording at this point, and the reason for that is I've got it set to threshold record. And we can choose to have threshold record here, and what that means is it's basically just going to wait for a signal to arrive, and then it's going to automatically go into record. So it's a really convenient and handy way of working. So I'm just going to press a note on the Summit, and then it'll just start recording. Just got to turn it up here. Beg your pardon. This is the problem. I've got about 4 different auxiliary pathways going on here to get into the circuit rhythm. I mean, I could just take a stereo out from the Summit and plug it in, but, you know, I've got a room full of stuff, so I want to be able to farm anything into here. But let's just try that again. So basically, I'm now going to press a note on the Summit, and there it is. It's recorded for me. Now, I didn't have the monitor switch on. Maybe I should have had the monitor switch on so we could hear it. But there we go. There we have our single mono note recorded into the circuit rhythm. Not the most interesting of notes, but that's no problem. It doesn't particularly match at this point. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and choose that note on all of the tracks. Well, 4 of the tracks, let's say. So let's just go down. It's on page 7. It's there. Oops. Page 7, yeah. And then this track 4, all the way down to page 7. There it is. So now if I go to my drum pads, I have the same note across all 4 tracks. That's fine, because what I'll do now is I'll go to my note page on track 2, and we'll put that up to a G. We'll go to the note page on track 3, and we'll put that up to a compound minor third. And then we'll go to track 4, and then we'll put that up to minor 7. Let's go down an octave. Okay, so what does that mean? So basically now I've got different kind of presets, notes. They're all listening to the same sample, but we've got different notes. So now if I go back to my drum pad mode, you see now I've got a chord running there. Now, of course, this is using the samples, and because we've changed the pitch, we've changed the time of them all, so they're all running at different lengths. But this is a nice way of just getting a single sound into circuit rhythm and then being able to turn that into a chord. So let's go back now to our sample record, and I'm going to sample record onto this step. And this next time I'm going to resample. So I'm going to take the audio output from circuit rhythm and fold it back in on itself to basically resample it into a new sample slot. So let's just give that a whirl. So I'm going to hit record. It's not going to record because I'm not in what am I not in? I'm in threshold recordings. I'm not playing any sounds yet. So let's go back to the drum pad mode. Now I just do this now. Okay, and now I just stopped it there. I can stop it on any page, but so from a single note we've now got a new chord. So that's pretty nice. So let's say we want to expand that out a little bit. Let's clear out that initial sample, so I can clear samples out of the way here. And now on track 1, I'll choose that sample. And then on track 2, let's go and change the note here. So we'll add, let's see, we're going to add a D, I think. Yeah. What are we doing here? I deleted the note out, didn't I? That's not good. But I tell you what we can do then is just go up to page 6, which has that note, and then page 6. So we're now starting to make kind of multi-timbral sounds. Oh, hang on, what am I doing? Let's go to the sample page, up to page 6, and then track 4, up to page 6. Need to go on the sample page, of course, so page 6. Okay, now on the notes here. Oh, where am I? Page 6, yeah. No, that's what I want. There we go. So let's change it to that note. Track 4. It's a bit low. So let's go up a couple of octaves. Track 3. And then track 2. Let's just bring another note in. So why am I doing this? Well, basically... Okay, so now if I go to my drum page, I've got the chord, but I've also got... So I've got a new chord, a new sound that I can quite quickly build as well. I mean, this is quite a rough shot. I'm not kind of spending a great deal of time and kind of getting the production side of this all right. But what I can do then is go back to my, go back to another a clear sample slot, hit record and wait. It's going to wait for the sound to come in. And now, of course, trigger those sounds. And then once we've done that, now in the sample record page, yep. So we've now got a polyphonic chord sampled on top of the on top of another set of notes to give us kind of, yeah, a double polyphonic. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything, does it? But basically, we now have a 7-note chord. And we've done it all from a single note that we basically sampled in from the summit, essentially. And of course, now I can go back to my clear project, and let's just go put the tempo. Let's go for 113 now. That's quite an easy tempo to work with in terms of getting the timings right. So, yep, sample page 5. Get a sample in there. And now I can go to page 7. Very quickly kind of record in those poly notes, go to the note page, and let's just go down let's just get back to the sample page, note page. Let's add a bit of reverb to that, of course. So basically, we were able to kind of get into the world of polyphony simply by really, just using a single note and then stacking those on top of each other. As I said, it's a sampler. Whatever you decide to put in there is going to make quite a difference. Right, now let's just go back to let's go back to sampling again now. Let's go clear a project out. I'm going to go back to my sample record. I'm going to clear that sample. I'm going to clear those samples out. I don't want to necessarily keep those in there for this. And I'm going to I'm going to move to, I think it's this track. Yeah, that's right. So what have I got on this track? Now I think I should have again the usual CALC affair of a single break on the on the beat. Fine. Now if I have a look at track 1 here, let's see. Let's go to page 1 to 16. I have a step on here. And if I go back to page 7 down here, if I press that step, you see, I've got it set to the first sample slot on the bottom row of page 7. And if I look at the first sample slot of the bottom row of page 7, there is nothing recorded in there. So at the moment, I have a sequencer with a trigger for a sample that doesn't exist. So why would I want to do that? Well, again, if I do the same here on page 2, I've got a step here, and again, if I go to page 7 and press the step, you'll see it's assigned to position 2. Again, nothing in there. And it's the same for 3. Again, page 7, slot 3, page 4. Oh, actually, now I have got some steps in here. But again, if I go all the way down to page 7 and press the step, let's see. Oh, hang on, let's see. Page 7. I know why. I'm on slice mode here. So basically, what I've done is I've set up 3 dummy sequencer tracks that are 2 bars long, and a 4th one here that has little slices preset. But once again, on the sample page here, it's using this sample slot. Let's see if we've got them set up. Let's just set them up quickly. Basically now, again, sample slot number 4, nothing in there. So I've got a load of kind of sample slots all recorded in. Actually, let's just quickly use the slices. If I go to that sample page, it's already set to slice as well. So why the heck am I doing this? Well, there is a good reason. Basically, I'm going to use Circuit Rhythm essentially as a live looping station now, I guess. So I've had to kind of just set up the kind of the project initially. And once I've set it up, I can just save the project as kind of a little holding bay. I know that when I get to this page, I'll be able to do what I want to do. So if I hit play, now if I put on the threshold record, and I'm going to switch on the monitoring as well. Now, this is where I embarrass myself because I'm going to pick up the guitar for the first time, and it's got to be about 7 or 8 years. I used to play a lot of guitar, but not so much in recent times for some reason. I think I've got a little bit more interested in oscillators and that sort of stuff. So anyway, wish me luck on this one. I'm going to try and kind of record something in. So I'm going to hit play. I'm going to hit record. Of course, it's not going to record anything until I hit the notes. So let's get the note in. So I'm just going to save that in. Oh, they were all muted. So we've recorded that first, recorded into that first slot. Let's go to part 2. Hit the sample slot we're going to record in. Let's just get some notes first. Yeah, pretty basic stuff, but let's just do it anyway. There we go, some bum notes there. Never mind, it's a proof of concept. Let's hit record again and get some other notes in. Oh, right now then, you've got to be a little careful because I recorded in, I just touched the notes here, and of course any kind of little thing that's going to push it past the threshold control is not going to work. So let's just try that again. So we've got 3 guitar parts in. Now the interesting one will be this last one, because now I'm going to record in. Let's just stop it. I'm going to record in now on this last one. But what's going to happen is, of course, on track 4, which is assigned to that slot, we already have some different types of triggers in there because we've already got a slice mode on. So what we can do is we can record in and instantly it'll start to slice it and sort of play it around. Let's just again get a... no wonder I was playing wrong notes. I'm playing in B. Anyway, never mind. That'll do. I do apologise for this racket, but hopefully you get the idea from it. So let's hit record. So already we've got the slicing going on, and we can now kind of, use this as quite an interesting kind of approach to working with guitars. So that's just from playing in a single line. Let's bring in that first guitar again, which was kind of the best one out of them, I think. Second one was pretty bad, but let's bring it in anyway. Dear me, shocking. But anyway, that's kind of all right. If I just bring the volume down a touch, and we'll just add some reverbs. Maybe go to the mixer, start to pan them around a little bit. So we basically just created a kind of a live looping station on the Circuit Rhythm. Now, as I say, it was a little embarrassing getting the guitar out there and trying to play, but hopefully you've got the idea. Of course, I could do this with a synth. I could do this with basically anything. I could do it with vocals. I could do it with whatever I wanted. And the great thing about this is, of course, you can capture stuff as if it was loops, but then, you can kind of preset kind of using, preset using slices, using pitched versions of what you're playing as well. I mean, for example, I suppose on this one, let's go to track 7. Yeah, I mean, it's going to sound a bit unusual because I'll be taking it out of key, but yeah, I can play around with the pitch of it as well, and before it's actually kind of even finished recording the sample. It's pretty powerful stuff, this. Now, while I've got the guitar here, I just want to explain a little bit about grid effects as well. Now, the grid effects, I think, are really nice, but one in particular works very, very well for the guitar. especially if you're a fan of Jimi Hendrix, and that is because we've got a reverser effect in here as well. So if I just kind of hit play, we've got the drum part running forward. If I turn the reverser on and latch it on, of course it's playing backwards. Now, what we're looking at here, well, this is the Grid FX page, and we've got 16 individual slots here that allow us to basically populate it with our own effects. Now, we've got a 7 to choose from, and we can set these up in the Novation Components software. So we've got things like beat repeat, digitizer, which is essentially kind of bit reduction, sample rate reduction, the reversers, vinyl simulators, they're really quite nice as well, filter, some phasers and some gator effects as well. But what works really nicely is the reverser with the guitar. So again, I'll just hit play, I switch the reverser on and latch it on by holding this white switch here. Now, of course, the drums are playing backwards, but what if we go into our sample and reverse the sample? Now, that reversed sample is now going through a reverser, so it's playing forward, which is quite interesting. But of course now, if I send some guitar perhaps through it, just make sure I've got my monitor on there. So if I play the guitar, very psychedelic guitar effects processor. And of course I can use the other effects as well, so let's just add a beat repeat on. It's held it in place. Let's just get another chord in. Gator, digitizer, filter, and why not a bit of vinyl simulation as well. So let's put the guitar down now. So yeah, so the grid effects are really quite powerful effects. Now, of course, these are all available for for anything that's running through the circuit rhythm. So I've got a track here that's kind of using a little bit of guitar as well, I guess. Kind of a bit more mellow. But if I go to my grid effects, I've got the phaser on there, and then just get some vinyl sim on there, and then beat repeat, gator, and all of this stuff we can kind of get running quite wild in there. And then if we go into our sample record page, we've got our resample as well, and resample is basically going to take everything that's coming out of the back of the rhythm, and that's including obviously all the kind of the grid effects as well, and that'll allow us to record them in. So let's just set up a track here. Yeah, again, we've got threshold record on, so it's not going to do anything until we hit the record button. Let's go to the grid effects, let's put them all on. Let's put beat repeat, phaser. Actually, let's just take that off for the minute. And then let's just... So it just created a really wacky sample there. Let's take it off. Bring it back out. I can hit record again to stop the sample from recording. You can see it's just having that moment to basically process the sample. It's quite a long sample there. And once it's done that, there we go. Now I think, yeah, I turned the vinyl sim on initially, so let's get that. So I can basically use this to basically just get the right sample length. There it is. And I can say bring the length of it down as well. I can reverse it if I want. When I'm happy with the kind of the way it's set, I can just hit save, and now I've got that sample in there as well. And There we go. We've just created samples from samples very, very quickly from using the resampling thing. Now, another quick one. Yeah, I'm mindful of the time here. I've been on for an hour or so, and I've got probably a load of questions to ask, to answer, but I'm just going to try and get through. I want to try and do 2 additional things here, because we're going to speak a little bit about the sequencer. So let's go back now. The sequencer, again, let's just go back. Actually, yeah, we can go to, I think it was this one, wasn't it? Yeah. Was it that one? No. Oh, I can't remember now. No, it wasn't that one. Maybe it's that one. Yeah, I've got my nice kind of drum parts there. Now, the sequencer is... Oh, let's see. Let's just clear all those patterns out. Right, okay, no problem. So the sequencer is based around kind of a grid pattern, and we have quantized and unquantized record. And I'll try and demonstrate that. So we've got here, it's set to, if I press shift, the record button is green. That means it was going to record quantize. So I'll put the click track on, and if I go to my pads, I'm going to hit record. Yeah, we've got the click track on, hit record. So I'm going to play. So I tried to play badly in there, but you can hear everything's kind of pulled in and it's being attached to the grid. That's fine. So let's just clear that out. And now I'm going to take quantized record off. So I press shift, and when the record button is red, quantized record is off. So I'll just... Now you can hear now it's off against the click track, and indeed if I go to my kick drum part here and look at the micro steps, you can see I'm off the main grid point because the unquantized record here is accessing the 6 micro steps directly underneath each of the steps. So it's basically it's called unquantized, but essentially it is really sort of just addressing a finer resolution of recording possibility. Now, if I clear those out, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my pattern settings and turn up the speed and turn on it to be 32 steps. So I've doubled the speed that the sequencer will run at and switched it onto 32 steps. So we'll do that again here. Track 3, track 4, so 32 steps. Track 5, 32 steps. Track 6. And then track 7, 32 steps, track 8. Now hopefully you can see that it's running between page 1 to 16, 17 to 32. Now again, if I make sure I've got record quantized off, now I've doubled the amount of sort of resolution that I've got available to basically record into. So I can kind of go a little bit further off grid. Now you can hear it's kind of pretty off kilter now, so that's fine. And so if you are looking to get finer resolution than the kind of the off-grid quantize standard kind of control, you know, you can do that. You can increase the sequencer's resolution. However, also it's a sampler. So what we can do is let's just clear all those patterns out again, and I'll go to sample record now, and I'll arm a track, arm a sample, I should say. Go to my drum pads control again. Now it's on threshold record, so now I can hit play. The click track doesn't trigger off the threshold, thankfully. So I can stay in time, he says, while trying to be out of time. I probably won't be able to because I am absolutely no finger drummer, but we'll get an idea. Okay, so I've recorded a sample there. Oh, that's on reverse. Totally and utterly off grid. So if you want to have quantized, sequenced phrases tied into the grid, that's great, you can do that. If you want to go off the grid, you can go into a higher resolution, which is 6 micro steps, which is basically 24 pulse per quarter note. And if you want to go higher, you can go up to, I think, if my maths is right, I might be wrong here, so I hope I don't get burned here in the comments, but basically if yeah, if we double the resolution, then the microsteps will, I think, will give us 48 pulse per quarter note. I might be wrong there. But basically, yeah, if I want to go totally and utterly off grid, I can just create a sample, and that's audio. And that is not tied to any grid whatsoever. So there we go. Now, the final thing that I'm going to talk about is basically how we can get more sample time into our samples. Because, you know, we've got 3 minutes 40, which is a heck of a lot for one pack. You know, there are 32 packs. One pack will hold 3 minutes 40. But if I go to my, let's see, will this work? If I go to my component screen here, now you can see, hopefully, if I can find my mouse, there it is. This is the pack that I've actually been working on throughout the course of the night. And if I go back to page 7, which is actually called page 4 here, they're in banks of 4 here in components, but this is page 7 and page 8. And you can see here that these sample slots are empty. In fact, this is set up now as it is on the screen, I think. Yeah, you can see I've got those 3 gaps there, one at the end here and the 4 samples here. So, basically, if we look here, I've got 36 seconds remaining. Now, let's say I want to get some quite long samples in here, but I'm kind of, you know, a bit concerned about the space that I'm running out. I'm running out of a little bit of space. But let's see what we can do. So I'm going to go to Live here, Ableton Live. And the reason I've gone to this is I can find a sample. So let's see, I can't see. It's on the computer's on the other side of the room for me here, but yeah, okay. I'll get the one that was highlighted. Why not? So I'll just drag that in. And if I hit play, ooh, let's take the monitor switch off. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 2 bar. It's kind of okay. It's running at 88 beats per minute. But what I want to do is to take that sample and say, actually, you know what? Let's not use as much time up when we load this in. So what I'm going to do here is go to my tempo, and of course using Ableton with its time stretching algorithm, I've switched it now to 120 beats per minute. That's fine, it's great. But what I want to do here is I'm going to repitch it. So I'm going to go to repitch, and if we listen to it now. Great, okay. That's fine. Obviously, it's running a bit faster now, so it's taking up less time, but I want it to be pretty much at 120 beats per minute. Actually, I tell you what, no, let's take it back to beats for the minute, because I kind of like the pitch it's in for that. So, what we'll do now is we'll go to 240 beats per minute. And in actual fact, no, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to freeze this track first of all. So I've frozen it. And now I'm going to flatten it so it becomes its own audio track. If I change it to 240, that's fine. And yeah, why don't we go the whole hog? Let's go to 480 now. Yeah, this might be getting a bit mad, but let's now flatten that again. So I'll freeze that track. Okay. Unflatten track. So we've now created basically an audio render of the original thing, but we've done it now, I think, well, pretty much more than 4 times faster. So of course that sample is going to take up less space. So if I now, let's say, show in Finder, there it is. And if I go back to components, what I can do now is grab that sample, drag it in here. Sounds pretty dodgy to me, but let's see what happens. So I'm now going to go Center Circuit Rhythm, and this is the pack that's open. And if you remember, I'm going to go to slot 105 here. I'm going to send that sample. It's just going to take a second to send that into Circuit Rhythm, and in fact you can see it kind of just whirring away here on Circuit Rhythm while it goes in. Nearly there. Okay, that's gone in now. So let's go to our sample record page. There it is. So why the hell have I done that? Well, basically I've taken... Oh, we'll take the loop off to one shot. So we've kind of got this really quite a long sample, really, running at 4 times as fast. So that means if we go to one of our tracks, and let's just put it in there. Let's go to the note page. Let's go down an octave. Actually, I think maybe I've gone a bit too far with this. Yeah, that's not worked. I'm going to do this again. That's not quite what I wanted. So let's just go back to Ableton. It's been a long day. So let's just go back to Ableton. Let's get a sample in here again. Let's find, I don't know, let's try this one. Let's go to 120 beats per minute. Hang on, this is all going a bit strange. That's not quite what I would want there. Let's go 120 beats per minute into there. Okay. Okay, that's not too bad. So let's now then go to 240 beats per minute. Okay, that's fine. Let's stick with that now. And I'm going to go to freeze the track again and flatten the track again. And I'm sure that this will work this time. So once we've done that, we'll go to Show in Finder, go back to Components, and let's copy that over into that other spot. In fact, let's just go to this second slot here. Send to Circuit Rhythm. Put it into the pack I'm using. Yeah, slot 106. Send sample. Once again, it's going to take a second. Yeah, so apologies for that. I think I got a bit excited with with that first with the oh, I've just spotted somebody said pitch it. I'm stretching it, and of course I am. So I'm going to have to do this once again. Sorry about that. That's why it's freaking out. Let's go to where it says beats here. Let's go to repitch. Let's listen to it now. Actually, no. Let's just undo the flattening first of all. So. Right, now we go to repitch. Thank you, Coke Mania. Yeah, you caught it just in time. Thank you. That's what I wanted. Of course. Oh, I've been really excited about finding this all day, and then all of a sudden, yeah, it's got a bit wrong. So let's try this now. So let's go freeze track, flatten the track, and let's have a listen. Okay, there we go. Let's then show that in the Finder. Go to Components, and let's drag it into. Let's drag it into the next one. We can have a listen to how it would have been if I'd have sent that. So let's go here. Let's go to this one. 107. Send sample. It's going to take a second to go in. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed for this one. It's on its way in. Okay, right. There it is. So let's do what we did before. Let's go to the sample. There we go. That sounds about right because it's already dropped down an octave. That's where it came in. And there we go. We've got kind of essentially a sample that is taking up half the space that we want it to on the SD card, which basically means we've got a lot more kind of real estate left. And if you saw before, we had 36 seconds, and I've thrown 2 reasonably long loops. They sound pretty shocking. Oh, I deleted that one. Thank goodness for that. But there we go. That one sounds pretty decent. And we've just taken up, I think, I don't know, maybe, what was it, just a handful of seconds there to get some really quite long samples in there. And we can do this with audio as well. I think, let's see, did I have one from this morning? Oh gosh. Is it? No, it's not that one. I did one with pitch on it. It might not be that one. Maybe it's going to be here. That's the same one I just listened to. Is it this one? No. But basically, I got quite a nice long track into a format that I could No, I'm not going to do it because it'll take forever for me to try and find it, I think. But basically, yeah, I'd got quite a nice long track. And in actual fact, I took a 3-minute track earlier today. I basically squashed that right down into a tiny little kind of audio file and then brought it in and just dropped it down a few octaves and brought it back out. It does affect the sound, but yeah, it's quite a nice kind of way of being able to kind of manage the sample length and the amount of sample time that you've got there. So anyway, I think I'm gonna finish up for tonight. I hope it's been interesting. We've kind of been through quite a few various different ways of using circuit rhythm. Hopefully, it's kind of opened up some ideas for the ways that you can use it. It is a lot more than the sum of its parts, I think. The circuit rhythm. You kind of see it on paper and you've got a kind of 8 mono sort of sequences are based around 8 kind of mono sample players. But, I guess, in terms of other groovebox based samplers, that's kind of the way that a lot of these things are in the world. And this is kind of the way that we work. But of course, with the things like the resampling, we can bring polyphony into it, no problem. If you start to kind of play around with some of the approaches to kind of, compressing your samples there and just kind of squishing them up a bit, you can get some quite interesting results from working stuff that way as well. So, right, I'm going to just go through a couple of questions now, and then and we'll call it a day. So, oh gosh, wow, there's a lot of people going on here. Okay, so let's see where we are. Okay, it's quite a bit of conversation stuff going in there. So let's see. Yeah, I can't really. Yeah, it's been a long day, as I say. Trying to find any questions is changing. But there's Coco Marina. Thank you very much for finding that repitch thing. I could have got it all wrong again the second time. Okay, yeah. Right, yeah, I think we're going to finish for the night. So basically, yeah, thanks very much indeed. That's been the second deep dive, looking at circuit rhythm. As I say, I hope it's been interesting. We've been through quite a few different things that we can do with it. Next week, we have got a third session on circuit rhythm. And in that session, we've got an incredibly special guest, because we're going to have with us Red Means Recording, Jeremy Laird-Cock, who's basically going to be... he's going to be joining us to have a chat about the rhythm. And the reason for that is that when, Jeremy's responsible for, I think, a good number, at least half of these sessions that we have in our circuit rhythm for launch. So if I go to I've just loaded up these circuit sessions there, but let's get rid of the click tracks. I'll just play us out with one of his tracks, I guess. There we go. Very nice way to end. Anyway, yep, thanks very much indeed. I hope it's been a good session for you. I've enjoyed myself, and I hope to see you next time. Okay, all the very best.